this year. We haven't done too many this year so far lives inside it. We'll be starting to do more, I promise, like I always do, put the momentum back up again. But if you're joining us, make sure you say hi in the comments. Let us know that you're here. Let us know where you are in the world as well, since everyone inside this group is from literally all parts of the world. So it's always nice to hear where you're from and where you're listening from. Hopefully you've seen the posts in the group for the past couple of days about Justin and what we're here for today, what we're going to be talking about. Lots of questions have been coming through to us as well. So I'm going to be asking Justin those questions as well whilst we're on here. But today we're basically going to be focusing around kind of what goes in behind the scenes of a fast-growing online business. We're going to talk to Justin Devonshire, you can see on the screen now, about his online business, but also his other businesses as well, a bit about his story, and kind of what goes into that behind the scenes, what things you need to be looking at, the important systems you need to be looking at, and also what it takes when it comes to building a team. I say this quite a lot inside here. I've never done any business ever in my life without a team behind me, whether that's in a supporting capacity or just working for us. And it'd be nice to just talk about that as well, about what points do you do that kind of thing, what points you need to expand in that way, and kind of what's involved in there. So with that in mind, enough of me chatting away and listening to me. I'm going to introduce Justin. So, hey, Justin, how are we doing?
Hey, Ash. Thanks for having me.
Cool.
Excited to be here.
Awesome. It's great for you to be on here. I know you work with a few people inside this group as well, which I've only found out the other day. People messaged me and let me know. I guess the best way to start off maybe is to just find out a bit more about you, in case some people haven't met you before inside here. Kind of what is it you do? Generally speaking, what is it you do?
So right now, I'm a business owner, investor, and mentor to fitness and health professionals. So my kind of main core businesses are a gym chain in the UK. We have 6 locations at the moment. We've just opened a couple of franchise locations. So our goal is to get to 10 locations by the end of this year. We have just recently launched a supplements brand. And then I work with a co-partner in an online business, online fitness coaching as well. So that's kind of the majority of the businesses we do. And then I also do some mentoring with fitness professionals, sharing the same systems with them as well.
Nice. Very cool. So obviously the big array of different businesses there. I think one of the best ways I've ever been, before I actually met you, I spoke to some of those on your mentorship program, Shane, who a lot of people know inside here. And he kind of described me as like an entrepreneur through and through. That's how he kind of described you to me. Like you do all these different things, and you've got like a big passion for entrepreneurship and business.
Yeah, just growing, scaling businesses. Yeah,
it must be quite fun actually. It's something I've been trying to do more and more of. Yeah, I do like to get my fingers in a few pies. It's quite nice to do. But did it always start that way? Have you always had a passion for business? Is it always something you wanted to do, or was it a kind of different story in the early days?
No, when I first started coaching fitness, must have been about, I'm getting on now, so it must have been actually 16 years ago, when I was 18. I'm 34 now, so it's been a good 15 years coaching. And I started off as, did the whole freelance in a gym kind of thing. Then I started my own fitness boot camp back in, God knows, a long time ago, when it was really brand new. Anyway, when I first started doing fitness boot camps, it was, people would ask me, is this like a military thing? Are you gonna, shout at me and spit in my face and things like? I'm like, no, we're not gonna do that. It was big in the States, but it hadn't really. So I was like amongst one of the first kind of guys, like a bit like Paul Mort, old friend of mine, a few other guys who got in very early with boot camps and the group programming model. I never really saw a big thing for one-on-one in the gym that much. And I started my fitness boot camp, and I just felt like the best kept secret of my town, where I knew I could get amazing results for people in a boot camp, better than the one-to-one PTs could get with their clients. But I had that problem that most fit pros do, that I didn't know anything about marketing or business or anything like that. I never wanted to be a business owner. I never considered myself a business owner. I just kind of thought of, I'm a personal trainer and I want to make more money and help people. So it was just a case about getting fully booked. And so I struggled for a while trying to do all the organic stuff and everything else that everyone teaches. I eventually cracked the code on generating leads and sales, and scaled my bootcamp up to like a low 6-figure, 8K a month kind of, but still a hobby basically. And I always thought that when I hit that 6-figure mark that everyone talks about, I thought my life would be complete. I thought I'm going to retire in 2 years. But that's when I realized my business was actually just a job. And it was just 60, 70 hours a week now of me managing all these things I didn't know how to handle, didn't know how to scale, didn't know how to grow a team, didn't know how to put systems in place. And what happened actually was I was trying to keep it all together myself, managing all the clients, doing all the advertising, sales, cleaning, tracking all the finances. No, that's a lie. I didn't track the finances. But if it was done, I would have done that too. And what happened was, after about a year of running it like that, there was an illness in my family. My mother had a brain tumor. And so I had to kind of pack things in indefinitely, go back to be with the family and take care of her. Fortunately, she recovered after a few months, but I just stayed with her to get back to health. And in that downtime, that's when I realized like something was, I reflected on my quote business, and I was like, something wasn't right there. I did all the marketing, did all the sales stuff really well, but my life is no better for it. It still completely depends on me. So then I started learning. I stopped learning, from marketing people and stuff like that. And marketing and sales is great, but it's like 10% of running a business. And I then started looking at, how do companies like McDonald's do it? How does Starbucks do it? And I started looking at these small businesses that have a proven, predictable product and an experience people love. And how do you scale that? And that took me down a whole other path of mentors and materials and things. And that's given me the ability now to, whereas 7-8 years ago, even the dream of having a 6-figure business seemed so alien to me, but yet now every business we launch, it goes to 10K a month in the first 30 days, because that's just the level of the standard level you keep after a while. So now it's really about implementing these business concepts, and a lot of fit pros are missing these concepts. And it's even if they know the marketing and the sales stuff, if you don't know the other stuff like systems, finances, team leadership, emotional resilience, leadership skills, you're never going to be able to keep growing the company to what it could be.
I think that's an interesting thing you mentioned there about that 10K mark, this number, this 6-figure number that everyone seems to want to aim for. And I was exactly the same boat as you a few years back now, where I've hit this 6-figure mark, like it's amazing that my life will change, and rightly so, it doesn't. Like it just becomes harder. That's what for me personally, I just found it harder to try and maintain that, because like you guys kind of wearing all the hats and doing everything myself. I find that quite interesting that everyone seems to go for that, and it's almost like there's these kind of tiers that people go for. Like that's your first tier, then to push past that, you need to do something slightly different. And then I always find a tier around the 30 grand a month mark, and you have to do something different to go after that. That's what I've seen anyway. I don't know whether you've seen something similar or not with kind of who you work with. But I think what's really interesting, one of the interesting things you mentioned there is right at the start of that, you mentioned about not considering yourself as a business person, as a personal trainer. And that's actually a conversation I tend to have with a lot of people inside this group. It pops up sometimes how, like, to me, most personal trainers around the world aren't really personal trainers. They're business owners and entrepreneurs because they need to be. There's not many places around the world where you get employed at a gym. Generally speaking, you are starting a business. Do you think that's one of the issues at the moment that trainers are finding? They're not prepared for that.
It's the biggest issue. It is the issue, because it's about identity and conscious choice, right? The fact is, if you if you've signed up if you registered a business, you're a business owner. So you have responsibilities. You can only, be a successful business owner when you adopt the responsibilities of being one. And it's just not a valid excuse to say, well, I'm not good at numbers, I don't like to hire people. Then go get a job. That's just the reality of it. It's like a client coming to you and saying, well, I want to be a world-class physique Mr. Universe competitor. Oh, but I don't want to track my calories. I don't want to do 5 workouts a week. What's the workaround? There isn't. Be a casual gym goer. That's it. So the first thing I think fit pros have to realize is that because again, like I said, I never planned to be a business owner. That wasn't, I thought, business and entrepreneurship was for old people in their 50s with gray hair. Richard Branson was never my role model when I was 8 years old or anything. But I soon realized, if you're going to grow a company and be self-employed, that's the responsibility you're accepting. So you need to get with the program or not. And a lot of Fit Pros, and the thing for me was back when I started this like 10, 11 years ago, and probably many of the guys listening to this, if you've been in the game more than 6, 7 years, I felt I had to go into business for myself because there were no opportunities in employment to do what I wanted to do. Because if I worked at a gym, they didn't want to do boot camps or group training because they didn't know what it was. Semi-private training didn't really exist. There wasn't really, there wasn't transformation facilities like we have today. At the time, when I first started off, and I knew nothing about the world of entrepreneurs or anything, my first ambition was to become a supervisor at JJB Sports Gym.
All right.
Like that when I was 18, like that was my goal in life. I was like, if I can get like Phil's job on the front desk and make 22K a year, because that's all I knew. That's all I knew. And then I started going online and hearing about trainers making 10K a month or $1 million gyms. And I was like, my brain melted out of my nose, And so at the time I got into business out of my own because it was the only route to go down. It's different today. Like when we've built transformation centers, we've got online businesses, and we're giving new opportunities to coaches. Now there's an option. It's either if you want to be in the fitness industry, you can go and work at LA Fitness and wipe sweat off treadmills for minimum wage, and that's as far as your career is going to go. Or you can actually come and work in one of our fast-growing online businesses or transformation centers now, and get more responsibilities and make more money and have a career path. And so I think a big responsibility that entrepreneurs like many of us here today have is to understand that we're creating those businesses, and we're evolving the industry, and we're giving opportunities to people that I never had back then. One of the things we do in our gym is we have ties to local colleges, and we have a system that brings in people from the sports studies programs to get 12-week work experience apprenticeships with us in our gyms. And I created that because, I never had that 10 years ago. It just wasn't available. And so, these are the kind of things when you start running, you got to decide, first of all, that you are in business. So you need to become and learn how to be a business owner. But then there's more responsibilities, but the rewards are so much more greater and fulfilling at the end of the day. Because if you're a freelancer, all you can do is really serve yourself and your clients. That's all you can do. As a business owner, you can serve yourself, your clients, you can help other people give them careers. You can help your community. You can, help students at colleges. You can help charities. You can do so much more for your community or your niche online when you have a business that provides more value to more parties. And that's why more money starts coming back to you ultimately. And you'll see that the bigger you talk about tiers of business, I've always defined this, like if you are making less than 6 figures, generally, it's because your business only gives value to 2 parties, which is yourself and your clients. You get money, your clients get results. When you're making kind of like 10 to 30, 40K a month, like you mentioned, the business owners are generally giving value to like 4 parties. Okay, and you guys should write this down. So it's yourself, your clients, team members. You start taking on team members, so you're giving more value to a workforce. You're creating jobs in your town, and you're creating more value for suppliers. So you're paying more to, like, PT Distinction might be a supplier, right? Facebook advertising is, so when you're paying more money to companies like these, that's because you need bigger infrastructure, and then you're partnering with these businesses, which flows value right back to you. And the biggest companies doing 7-figure plus, they're also giving value to the wider community. So their town as a whole, or their, a bigger niche, and also giving value to charities and good causes as well. So when you start, if you think about it, if your business, find a way for your business to give value to all those 6 areas, the more you give, the more you start getting back.
Yeah, that's a big. I do love that way of splitting it up, like the people you actually give and help and support and serve. I think that's a really cool way of actually putting it. And I've always been a big believer in the more you give, the more you get back. I kind of went through a stage a while back. I mean, I started business when I was relatively quite young. Once I was forced into it, but there's a family business as well that's run. So there's kind of, I won't say pressure from my parents or pressure from like my dad who ran his own business, but when you're surrounded in that environment, you kind of feel like, I want to do that. I want to do the same things, but I had no idea what I was doing, not a clue what I was doing. And I can definitely see the correlation that you mentioned there between when you just serve yourself, one other person, compared to serving more people and then serving more people. And even if you don't actively directly go out there and want to return financially from it, you tend to get it. Like, it just literally comes back to you, like as a kind of almost side effect of what you're doing and the people that you serve. I think that's quite a really cool way of putting it. Just quickly, you mentioned earlier when you kind of start off and you're getting kind of sub six figures, and there's obviously a lot of trainers in here who are probably up that level where there's themselves and there's the clients that they're serving. And I can imagine there's one bit you said earlier about I'm going to call it like wearing all the hats, where you seem to be doing every tiny little thing to try and keep the business going and to keep things moving forward. And I can imagine, and I know some of the questions that we've had through, that it's like, well, how do I move? How do I get from this point here where I'm literally wearing 100 hats? I'm trying to do all the jobs in the world. All I've got time for is to serve these particular clients. I haven't got time to scale. I haven't got time to move. I haven't got time to look for suppliers and all that kind of stuff. Like, how do you make that move, or how did you make that move, I should say, from kind of the man with all the hats to let's look at a team. Let's look at what we do next.
Yeah. So I mean, there's three key things to get in place to scale up. Okay, and that's going to be like systems. It's going to be your team, and it's going to be finances, because it takes money to pay for teams and systems. Your freedom is not free. You're going to have to pay for it, right? So one thing we have to establish first of all is that, if you're not making 10, the real answer, ultimately, strip it down, is finances, right? How do you know you're ready to get someone on board? When you can afford to pay them. When are you ready to build a bigger infrastructure? When you can afford it. The question, people always ask me, how much should I pay a trainer? And I say, it doesn't matter. The real question is, how much can you pay a trainer? If the going rate is 3 times more than you have in your bank account, you can't pay them, can you? So asking should is the wrong question. Asking what can I do is really what resources do you have is most important. So one problem I find is, if you're, first of all, like, I think, if 0 to 6 figures or 10K a month, let's say that, it's a good benchmark, because what this stage does is this validates if your service is actually worth becoming a business or not. I think you're meant to be a little bit overwhelmed in the first stage of 0 to 10K, because you're actually just throwing everything at the wall, validating your product, seeing what works, trying different things. You've got to be quick and nimble, and you've got to deal with a bit of pressure, because it's all so brand. It's like, imagine someone going to the gym for the first time. They're just doing push-ups and planks. You don't think it's a big deal, but they're like so overwhelmed with it because it's so brand new to their bodies and their minds. So you're going to have a bit of overwhelm in the beginning, because you do have to learn marketing and sales. Unless you're going in there, unless you already have capital to start your business and you do employ a team from day one, which happens in most industries in the world, but through this industry, we don't do it that way generally. So you are, if you're not coming in with capital, you are going to have to do all these things, right? So I think before you're making 10K a month, you should not be looking to outsource things or take hats off. You should fully embrace those hats, because that's what you signed up for. But there's only 3 major hats you need to have on, and that's getting leads every day, being a marketer, sales, being a salesperson, and then fulfillment and serving your clients. You have to just do those 3 things and focus on nothing else. Once you've done that and you've got that a solid 10K a month business, you can then look at scaling to the next level, which is putting systems in place, systemizing the 3 things that you just did, systemizing how you get leads, systemize how you close the sale, systemize how you deliver your service. Then, if the finances are there, you can then hire someone. So a big catch-22 that a lot of fit pros I've spoken to end up in is they've got clients coming in, or they're making 10K a month in revenue, but not making any good profit. And they're getting overwhelmed or busy, but they also still can't afford to hire someone. And that's the worst place to be in, because that usually means then that either your costs are way too big in to do the marketing, sales, and fulfillment, you're paying out more than you can afford, or you're not charging enough, or probably both. And this is the mistake. When Fit Pros can't hack the marketing and sales, they take the easy option, which is to slash their prices. And of course, you get a ton of sales come in when you charge 35 quid a month, but they're not profitable customers. So you end up with 300 customers and you're still making $6,000 a month, but now you're working 90 hours a week. So you can't even outsource it anyway. And this is something when I work with Fit Pros, and I say, like, the one thing stopping them is they need to triple their prices right now. And they go, well, it's going to upset half of my clients. And I'm like, I know, but if you don't risk upsetting half of them, you won't have a business in 6 months from now.
And so, by definition as well, if you triple your prices, you upset half of them leave, you're still making more profit.
Yeah, exactly. And you've opened up more space for higher paid customers. So the biggest thing really there is the magic trick is you've got to have finances to do this. You've got to have, your company has to be profitable at 10K a month. So if you're not yet at 10K a month, then don't worry about this. Just accept that you have to get marked, get leads, close those sales and fulfill them, and make sure your pricing is right and your costs are moderate, so that when you get to 10K a month, you're doing it with at least, you're able to pay yourself a few thousand a month and keep a couple of thousand a month in profit. That profit that then builds up is what you're going to use to reinvest to, and systems are cheap. Systems don't cost a lot of money these days. It's not like 20 years ago to put a CRM like Infusionsoft in, it'd be like $5,000 a year. Systems, luckily now, cost, like PD Distinction, costs next to nothing relatively for what you're getting for it, right? So systems are expensive these days, but getting the team members, that's where the big is where the cost comes in. And so yeah, it comes down to looking at the finances, and you've got to be able to then know who you need, what role they're going to do, what's the going rate for that role, and versus what you're able to budget for it. And the simple question is, like, if you can't afford it, you have to then just free up more profit by selling more, or reducing your costs, or you just have to wait. You have to wait longer until you have the money. And Fit Pros, it's a bit of a wake-up call for a lot of Fit Pros when they realize that in business, that it's always a case of time versus money, right? If you're making 2K a month profit, but you want to hire 9 people, then you have to wait 6 months of making 2K profit to be able, or if you want to get a facility or something like that. And most Fit Pros then, because they want to rush to scale up because of their ego, they go and get loans, or they'll give up, a huge portion of equity in their business just to get an investment or something. And the problem with all that is you're borrowing money. It's like taking steroids for the business that your joints can't support. So the business has to be sustainable enough to reinvest in its own growth. And if it isn't, your finances tell you, and that tells you you're not charging enough, or your costs are too much. So if you've done that right, you'll have no problem looking for good people to hire, and you'll have the money to pay them. But if you're struggling in that catch-22 where you need help, but you still can't afford it, you've got to look deeper into why is the profit not there? And if the profit isn't there, you probably shouldn't scale the company anyway.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
Just quick on the profit and the numbers side. Again, this is something that I've personally not seen a huge amount of Fit Pros do very often when we speak with the group. And actually a couple of lives have done here as well, particularly with Shane, funnily enough. We talk about profit, about loss, about cash flow, and a few other things like that, and the difference between the likes of turnover, which you hear a lot of. Obviously, I don't want to badmouth anybody or anything like that, but you hear a lot of Fit Pro mentors, especially, talking about these figures that they go through. And a lot of these figures are generally turnover they're talking about. We're not talking too much about profit most of the time. And sometimes they can be relatively low profit in these businesses. And
most of them are projected turnover, not even real cash collected. It's like, this client made 10K. No, they didn't. They signed up someone to pay 100 a month for the next 19 years.
Yeah, that is very true as well. You do
Most
hear
I'm
that.
talking contracted sales, not actual cash taken. Yeah. So
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, no, but yeah, it's very true. One of the things I talk about a lot with people is cash flow, and it's, it doesn't matter. You can have these like on paper sales and these projected sales based on this client, but at the end of the day, the true kind of blood behind your business is cash flow. And understand that. And if your cash flow slows down or dies out, you've got issues. And
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned earlier when you first started, and you were kind of pushing yourself up to this kind of 10K mark, the boot camp, and you was doing everything, and then obviously your mum wasn't very well. You mentioned you wasn't massively really tracking any numbers or anything like that. Did that change then when you kind of came back into this and you started looking with a mentor? Did you start looking at tracking things like your cash flow, your profit, what your profits were, other outside of what you do for your accounts legally? But did you start tracking that stuff at all to try and help figure out those numbers?
Well, when I got back into my studio, my first semi-private studio, and I started getting the clients in, is because I dialed in paid advertising. I realized that relying on organic marketing alone is like not great for beginners because it just takes forever. If you haven't got a reputation, paid ads is the way to go. Google ads or Facebook ads. And so because I was then paying out money for those on a daily budget, like £5 or £10 a day, that made me very, accountable to tracking how much I was spending versus how much I was making. So the first entry into financial tracking was more on the marketing and sales conversions. So I'd know, if I'm spending £10 a day, how much am I making back? And then looking at, what's my typical cost per lead, cost per sale, cost per phone call, for example. And then what is my general earning per sale, earning per phone call, earning per lead. So for example, if I have to get 10 leads to get one sale, and I'm paying £10 per lead, then I need to spend £100 to get 10 leads to make one sale. And if a sale is worth £100 to me, let's say, then my cost per sale was 100, and my earning per sale was 100, and my earning per lead was £10 as well. Right. So it's looking at what you're potentially going to earn from generating a lead, not just what it's costing you.
Yeah.
So it was marketing, sales stuff again, because that's the first thing you've got to focus on to get to that 10K mark. And then looking at client metrics, to make sure you're doing a good service. So we're tracking the success rate of our clients, tracking their experience, tracking retention rates, things like that. So again, the first metrics were around leads, sales, and fulfillment, because they are the key things. Then I opened a 4,000 square foot transformation center for the first time in January 2015. And that's when I started bringing on staff. So because I built my studio, first of all, then I kind of outsourced. I brought a partner in, outsourced it to a partner, wanted to take some time off. I started helping some other fit pros who were asking for advice. And after a few months of doing that, I realized I just missed running my own business. And I was like, hey, I'm teaching them these strategies, and I'm missing a trick by not still using it on my own businesses, right? So that's when I kind of jumped back in, opened a center in 2015, and I was retired from coaching by then pretty much. So I set up that facility, had 2 full-time coaches from day one, had a reception manager. And so I was there leading that team on day one. And when you have teams in place, that's when you, and bigger costs, that's when I really started dialing in more gross numbers. Wasn't as detailed as we are now, but I was at least looking at understanding a profit and loss statement, a balance sheet. What's my gross profit, net profit? What are my costs? And more importantly, looking at budgeting, which is important. It's not just about how much you're spending or how much you're making. It's about kind of ratios, like calories. It doesn't matter if you ate 2,000 calories. Is that good? Well, I don't know. How much was protein? How much was fat? How much was carbs? That makes a big difference. So we started putting budgets in place of that if our costs were this much a month, that no more than 40% would be spent on our payroll, or no more than 30% would be on our rent, for example. And so we set these benchmarks in place. So we knew that whatever we were spending, we had limits on each cost center. And that's what we still use to this day as well.
That's very cool. I do like how that kind of fundamental side of it, though, like work on those kind of three fundamental areas. That's what you track first, because that's basically what you focus on when you first start, and that's at first level, if you like. Then, like you mentioned earlier, I guess if you start tracking those, once you track them, it's a bit easier to systemize those things. You can then systemize those things, and then you can look at how you can scale outside of that and looking for a team and things like that behind it. One of the things I wouldn't mind talking about actually is 2020, and kind of your business's developments over 2020. There's a lot of obviously a lot of personal trainers have gone online over the past year for obvious reasons. But a lot of personal trainers who've gone online have maybe struggled in maybe sometimes growing their business online, but also if they've left studios behind, gyms behind, or maybe closed some of their gyms, and thinking about, I want to try and move all that stuff online. I think, but if I research right, I think over 2020, you actually scaled your in-person business as well as your online business and got more places. Can we talk a bit about that and kind of what the thought process behind that was, and how that kind of came about?
Yeah. So yeah, in 2020, we were closed for 5 months of the year. We started the year with 2 locations, and right now we have 6. Through the worst year ever. Our online business has grown as well, like massively in the last year and a half, but I wouldn't say that was particularly affected by last year. We were doing an online program helping guys at the gym anyway, so that was just through a lot of advertising and dialing our systems in. I don't think COVID really helped us or hindered us for online, to be honest. But the gyms, yeah, that was okay. So if you want to learn about that, this goes deeper into kind of business psychology and long-term strategy now, where this has been the plan for the last 3 years. So we kind of think a lot longer. We think in terms of economic cycles. The most important number in your business, the one that ultimately gives you the health and the longevity of your business, is your amount of operating cash. Okay, so it's the amount of operating cash flow. You mentioned cash flow earlier.
Yeah.
Operating cash is the amount of money that you have, that your business has, not you, in the bank, which will determine how many months could you stay open and cover all your costs if no new revenue came in. And I've got videos on YouTube like 2 years ago teaching Fit Pros this in my live seminars, saying if your gyms had to close tomorrow, because this is a mentality freakishly I've always had. We always say if our gyms were forced to close tomorrow, or every single client cancelled, how long could we actually keep going? Paying our staff, without having to fire anyone, without having to downsize or lose our lease. Because these are things you have to worry about when you've got bigger overheads, bigger responsibilities. You have to look at these things. And so what I've been teaching Fit Pros for the last few years is that the first thing you have to do is you need to get to a minimum 6 months operating cash flow in your business bank account as soon as possible. So if right now it costs you $3,000 a month to run your business, to pay for your own salary, to pay your taxes, to pay your softwares, to pay your advertising, your couple of part-time coaches, if its total cost, your break-even point is $3,000 a month, you need to get 6 times that. You want to get $18,000 in your business account in profit minimum. So if everything was shut tomorrow, you could actually keep the lights on, so to speak, and keep paying everyone, giving you a 6-month window to get back on track, right? Because that's the thing, when shit hits the fan, when economies crash or pandemics happen, everyone on Facebook is, all these gurus are suddenly telling you the key to survive is to pivot online. The key is to get on Clubhouse. The key is to do this type of advertising. The key is to do high ticket. The key is to do low ticket. It's all nonsense. The only key to keep your business alive is having cash. Nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to talk because it's not sexy. No. So when people ask, how did you guys not only stay open, not have to furlough any staff, in fact, you've hired more people and grown 4 more locations, whilst things were closed. How did you do it? And the reason we did it is because we prepped the last 2 years from 2018, putting 12 months of cash aside into every location. So we have 12 months of cash flow in the bank. So like literally we could have just closed up this year, told all our staff to go on holiday, done nothing for 6 months, open back up next month and just continue as we are, just taking a dent into our savings, right? Cash is the leveler. Cash is oxygen for your business. If your lungs don't have oxygen, you die in 3 minutes. Doesn't matter how good your lungs look or how much they can do. If you don't have good oxygen, you're dead. Your business is the same. Doesn't matter if you're online, low ticket, high ticket, click funnels. If you haven't got cash, you're done. And that's what the PTs have all realized this year, right? So it's not sexy. It's not, it's prevention rather than cure. And we planned this out because we knew that in 2020 recession was happening. That was predicted by experts economically for many years. It's about every 7 to 8 years we go through a dip. And so what happens is, if you understand recession and economic timelines, is that when we go into a bad economy now, this is when the most wealth transfer actually happens, because now is the time. It's the best time for you to actually start to grow your business empire, so to speak. Like now is the time to go in, because there's a lot of your former competitors now are looking for jobs and they might become your collaborators, and you're able to purchase assets at a far lower price. So, we had both gyms running the last couple of years, a men's and a ladies gym. And we resisted the urge to scale more because we said, let's just wait 1.5 years. The market's going to crash. We didn't know it was going to happen this way, but, but we were due for a recession anyway. It's going to crash. People are going to give up their gyms. They're going to sell equipment super cheap. We'll be able to get labor, equipment, facilities, rental leases, loans from the bank at better interest rates, far more in 2020 than we can do right now. Because now in 2018 is a good economy, right? So you wait for things to crash. That's when you move in and start taking up the assets. Now we're getting rent. We got, in our 2 new locations, we got the first 4 months rent for free because of the situation right now, right? So we're getting like the best deals on everything. We've got 45 fit pros that want to work for us, right? Waiting for a job. The government are funding us to hire under 25-year-olds. So you've got all these advantages when you time it, and we know that now the economy will start to recover from next year. You kind of jump onto that wave, and you can really kind of grow in it. So our goal is to go into a big growth phase over the next 3 to 7 years, and aim to open 20 or 30 locations.
Nice.
And then the economy will sputter again in 10 years, probably. So it's about having a long-term plan, and it's about having the cash prepared in advance so that when anything happens and rocks the boat, your cash is what allows you to mitigate threats. But also, and I always say, if you have 3 to 6 months cash in the bank, you have defense against threats.
Yeah.
But if you have 6 to 12 months of cash, you're able to also maximize opportunity. So, we're growing now by a lot of acquisitions. Gym owners, like I said, are leaving their gyms behind. They've invested 70, 80K into that gym 5 years ago. We're taking it for 40K now, the whole lot. Right?
Having liquid, liquid, I call it liquid cash, like obviously
spending money, I call it.
Yeah. Just gives you options, doesn't it? It gives you so many options when you've got it around there to take advantage of those situations.
When there's blood on the streets, buy land is what they say, right?
Exactly.
It's kind of that mentality. So that's how we do, and that's what we teach our fit pros, that these kind of long-term business concepts, because we're not about helping you make a bunch of clients in 5 days. We're teaching people how to grow a business that's going to give you generational wealth for the next 30 to 50 years.
That's cool.
It's a whole different ball game. Yeah,
very different. One of the things I've liked about, I've been sort of looking at your programs and a bit about what you do and speak with your work, but it's one of the things I've always quite liked about what you do in your approach and what your team's approach is to everything. It's quite refreshing, actually. It's very different to what we generally see in this industry, I would say. Just on that same thing as well, we talked, you mentioned about the online has kind of just been steady throughout, doing the same thing. Assuming you're going to have the same approaches of what you have with your brick and mortar, if you like, to what you kind of do online in terms of having the cash around and all that kind of stuff. What's your online stuff look like? 'Cause obviously, most people in this group are about online training. A lot of them do have brick and mortar businesses too, but a lot of them are about online training. And I think sometimes we look at online training as like a solopreneur type business. A lot of people are on their own doing stuff. For me personally, I found the more successful online business have quite a big team behind them, if not bigger than most brick and mortar businesses. In all honesty, what does yours look like? What's your online business look like?
So I've typically always used the model of one-to-one at scale.
Mhm.
So it's customized one-to-one, very, very customized for the individual. It's not about, we don't give a lot of like calls and Zoom calls, anything like that. It's more helping busy professionals. We aim for a busy professional market mostly. I like that niche. Not to say other niches can't work, but I've always found the best success with the busy professionals, kind of 35 plus market, because not even because they're affluent, because we don't charge like big high ticket fees, but more because these are the people that will make decisions faster, will stick to things longer. There's more benefit in it for them on the fitness and the mental side. They're a lot more responsive to how we help them with the mindset and the daily rituals and the discipline of things. Whereas, your general mum of two Sally at a boot camp doesn't really care about mindset concepts that much.
Yeah.
But your professional career people are like really into it. And they're like, oh yeah, tell me more about this meditation and how do you do your daily journaling and stuff, right? So they're a lot more into that, which we like, which gives us a whole other dimension of value online as well. We're not seen as just fitness people. Another reason I like this market as well is because, they can pay. And also because these are the people that we're looking for, people that already have probably gone to a gym. It's mostly men we work with. They've probably been going to a gym for 10, 15 years of their life anyway. They know how to do a bench press. They know how to do things. They read men's health magazines. So we're not teaching beginners. We don't need to give them like exercise libraries of videos or anything. Like they know how to do basic exercises. They're experienced enough. We don't have to do like weekly calls with them or analyze their like squat technique or anything. We can do it, but it's not
needed.
You just find people, but these are the people that are just like, I like to train, I like going to the gym. They're in relatively okay shape. They're not like super obese or anything, but they're just like, I want to get fitter, stronger, and I need someone to take the guesswork out, customize a nutrition and a fitness program for me to take to the gym or body weight to do when I'm traveling or whatever. And they just want to have check-in and they want to have accountability with the coaches. So our one-to-one model is like that. There might be a call to kick them off, just to build rapport and get to know them. And then we'll customize their programs for them. And then it's like weekly, 2 or 3 times a week, check-in, audio messages, check in their progress pictures or a bit of video technique if it's needed. So that's the base of our model, because that's very scalable. In our business, we have like 4 coaches, and each of our coaches can work with like a couple of 100 clients doing that. It's relatively easy, especially if you've got like good systems in place. The programs are all pre-templated and things like that, and you've got your systems like you guys provide to automate and track a lot of this stuff. Then that's where it's for. It's for handling lots and lots of clients. The staff is more for support, if anything. We don't need a lot of specialist staff. We need more support staff. And we also do, what we do then, if you have an audience, we have quite a big audience we've grown over the years. And if you have that, then we also like to supplement our income by doing a couple of group-based programs, lower ticket. We do a 6-week shred program, like 2 or 3 times a year. And that's like a big like launch date, for all the people that don't want to do one-to-one training or can't afford it. They can come into our 6-week shred, which is about 65, 70 quid. We'll get about 400 or 500 people do each one of those. You know, we make it a big game. We put like prize competitions. We do, you know, prizes for the top 1, 2, 3 transformations. They get like a £2,000 prize or a stack of supplements or something. You know, and that makes us, you know, a good 10, 20K every time we run it. But the main model is growing the one-to-ones and then bringing on more coaches to knowing, first of all, based on the amount of service you want to give, how many clients can one coach manage? And then the model is, you know, when we start getting more than that number of clients, we need to bring the next coach on, start filling him or her up, and then bring the next coach on, and so on.
I guess it's kind of what you're saying earlier about getting to that point where you need those kind of systems. Like if you want to pull outside of that, the leads, the sales, and the fulfillment. Again, once you systemize those things, that what you're talking about there is basically fulfillment, isn't it? Like you get to a certain level, it's like, okay, now if we have these systems in place, all we do is go and we find a new member of staff, we bring them in, we can now duplicate that system again.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Because that scale, if you're talking about scaling, your leads and sales system should have been dialed in to get you to 10K. That's just a chase of just growing that. So it's more about building your infrastructure for fulfillment. Building in the back end is how you scale a business, not scaling. Scaling the front is easy. You just spend more money on ads than you were spending before. If you're spending 100 a day to make profit, now you can spend 200 a day and get double the number of leads. Like that shouldn't be a mystery. If you're scaling to 7 figures, then it's because you've got a predictable lead and sales system dialed in. Then it's just kind of laying up, because scale, really, what people don't understand about scale, when marketing people tell you, I'll help you scale your business, they're talking about scaling up your ad spend. Yeah. Well, I can help you do that in 2 minutes. Go into your Facebook ad account and where it says spend £10 daily, change to £100 daily. I just scaled your ads for you. Saved you paying $5,000 for a course on that. The problem is, though, can you deal with that many leads? That's the issue no one teaches you about, right? Yeah. And so scaling, to me, your scale is not limited by your ad spend. Scale is not limited by how many team members you have. Scale, really, at its core, is how many people can you touch with your service at the same high quality level you were known for when you had 5 clients. That's what scale means. If you try and scale faster than you can serve at the same high level of quality, I can give you $1 billion right now to spend on ads, but if you can't serve more people, don't spend the money, don't scale. No. You can only scale as far as you can give good qualities, the highest level quality of service. So it's not limited by money or anything else. It's ultimately limited by your model of how you're going to give that same level of service. And giant companies are not immune to this either. That's what happened to Starbucks. Had a big problem when Howard Schultz stepped down as CEO in 2007, I think it was. He left the role to Jim, someone, the second in command. And this guy, Jim, then scaled Starbucks and they started popping up everywhere. But the quality of service went down. And it really nearly tore the company apart because they'd overscaled and just couldn't, they had all the money in the world, but the product went down. They'd made everything too efficient. They paid money for these faster coffee machines, but then they surveyed people who weren't going to Starbucks anymore. And the people said, well, I like the old machines because they put a better smell and had a louder coffee grinding noise to them. So they thought they were scaling and being efficient by paying for quieter machines. But that took away from the experience of what people actually wanted there. Right.
One of the reasons why it costed it so well in the UK, because it was around the same time, wasn't it? They started keeping the old ways of doing stuff.
Yeah. So Howard Schultz stepped back in eventually and slowed everything down and took it all back, put the customer first again. So you can have all the money in the world like Starbucks. If you don't put the customer first and keep giving the same high quality service you were known for in the beginning, which is why you started growing, that'll be the kiss of death for any Fit Pro. And I see that mistake made a lot for Fit Pros. They crack onto a Facebook ad system or something and think, well, now I'll just scale the fuck out of a $9 ebook. And they only got to that certain level because they gave such a good service anyway. You've just now got to scale that by bringing team members on that have the same passion as you did or you have. And you won't have a passion for coaching clients for the rest of your life. I have no passion for coaching fitness clients, right? Because that's the next slide people tell you. If you're not passionate about serving clients, you should quit. And it's like, well, no, I don't think Howard Schultz is passionate about serving coffee every day either.
No, definitely not.
I would not want to get up at 6:30 in the morning to listen to Sally why she fell off the wagon and had wine on the weekend. Like, I don't care. My passion now is in building the company and creating more jobs and finding, young fit pros who have that passion I had back in the day for it, and giving them a great job and great money and great career development. So they'll build the company with me. So it's, you don't have to have that passion much longer, but you just need to make sure your coaches you hire do have that passion, and they won't have the passion forever either. You bring a great coach on, when they're 5 years in the future, they won't want to do the same thing. They'll want to grow naturally. Passion comes from growth, not doing the same thing. So the irony is, when you start looking at long-term of this, is the better someone is at the job you bring them in for, actually the shorter their shelf life becomes. If you bring a coach, you bring young Johnny on, he's an amazing 23-year-old coach. He's like, give me more clients. And he smashed up the part. He has the best results, the best retention. Once he's done 10,000, 20,000 hours of mastery on that, you'll see his performance start to go down. And you'll be like, what's up, Johnny? And lack of performance is very, very rarely a lack of inability. It's a lack of, it's more about indifference. They just don't care about the job as much, because Johnny's like, I've coached, I've mastered this. Like, there's nothing else in it for me now. I want to do something else. And if you don't offer them and show them from the very beginning that there is, if this time comes, there's a next step for you. If you don't show them that career pathway, then they're going to think they have to go off and do it on their own or for somebody else. And that person will quit, and you'll be like, I thought he was so happy here. What happened? Right? But if you're not kind of showing that pathway, if there's no levels to it, whereas if we find someone like that who's doing super well at the job, we're like, okay, awesome, but also shit, we'll need to, he's going to look for promotion soon.
Yeah.
Right? But that's cool, because like, if he's doing super well at something, isn't it better to get him out of that role of senior coach and make him head of the coaching department and have him training 4 new coaches to do it as well as he does it?
Yeah.
He gets more responsibility. He gets to contribute more. He gets paid more money. And he starts coming up into the executive level of the company now. Same with sales. If we get an amazing salesperson, I want her off of sales. I want her now training 3 more salespeople. Right? Because if we can get 3 salespeople trained by her to be half as good as she is, that's making more money for us. Right? So that's the kind of ironic thing you've got to look at with your team. If you're growing, that means the team have to be growing as well. And so you're managing your own growth in the company, but you've also got to be on top of everyone's growth. And you can't have any stagnation, because if your team start developing personally or professionally faster than you, they will outgrow your company and they'll go somewhere else, or they'll just compete against you.
I've seen that happen quite a few times, especially in other industries as well. The one that my family's business is in. Like, I've done bits within that business, obviously, with being a family business. And I think sometimes having that stagnant feel within, especially like in the management level or middle management level, for anybody, it's hard. Like, you will start losing people. I mean, one of the big things I've always tried to do whenever I bring anybody else on is to always basically think about what their purpose is and what impact they want, generally speaking. Like, some people don't know that when they first start out, but I always try and find out what that is, because if I can understand what they want, what their purpose in kind of life is, and what impact they want from their life, I can kind of predict how long they're going to be with this for, and where I need to go with them, and where I need to push them to try.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, I always say the number one key to that, that's the number one key you've touched on there, is that for any relationship to work, personally, professionally, in a business context, their personal vision has to align and complement your business's vision. If it doesn't, either they'll be the wrong fit for the company, or they'll only be there short term until they get some other goals. But yeah, if long term their vision is to be a worldwide leader in serving diabetic people, and your business vision is to get 2,000 diabetic customers, that's a good match.
Yeah.
Because the more the company grows, the more they're going to grow, and vice versa. And both sides enter the agreement knowing that. But yeah, like I said, if their vision is not lined up, or their vision changes, or your company vision changes, that's cool. It just means you're no longer a match, and you've served each other up until that point. But now it's time to look at different options, and that's okay too. You're not going to retain all your team members forever. But as long as you offered the pathway and didn't lose them through not being prepared, then yeah, you'll have a lot of longevity, and it'll be a great place to work.
That's awesome. I'm just aware of the time I've kept you here for an hour. trying away so long.
I will need to jump off in a couple of minutes.
Yeah. So I think we'll just start rounding. I mean, everything you said there is awesome. Like, thank you so much for sharing that. We've never really dug that deep into that kind of things on here before. So I mean, it's incredible, really, what you've been sharing with us. I've been taking a couple of questions and stuff in, but you've answered most of them. So I think we should be okay. But what I'd love to do, if you can, is just tell me a bit about kind of, we talked about your mentorship programs there. Like, how, if somebody watching this, really resonating with you, how can they get involved? How can they find out more about you and what you do in your programs, or even possibly work with you as well?
Best thing to do is reach out to me on Facebook. We have a couple of programs. One is more for the kind of 0 to 10K a month kind of entrepreneur who just needs to dial in their service, get their offer right, get their leads and sales system dialed in. And we have a program called the 50 and 90 challenge, which is getting 50 clients in 90 days with the system. If you're already at a point you're making 10K a month or more, you've got customers and sales coming in, you're growing. You just now need to kind of organize all this, and you're thinking about systems and teams and finances and scaling. Then we have a 1-year business mentorship for that level of Fit Pro as well. So that's the two options: 0 to 10K, and then 10K to whatever the hell you want after that. 19 figures, right? I'll help you make 19 figures in 9 days, right? So yeah, you can just reach out to me.
19 figures in the end. Awesome.
I say reach out for a chat, and we'll see where you are and what the best thing is from there.
Awesome. Sounds good. If it's cool with you, I'll pop the link to your profile in the comments so people can find you a bit easier.
Yeah.
At least tag you in anyway, so they've got you on there.
Awesome.
Cool. I'll just quickly add on that Shane has actually popped up and they said, how's it going? And also that he cannot recommend you enough in your program. So
Shane's awesome.
Program. Yeah, it's a good lad, Shane. He's been on here a couple of times as well, talking about all sorts of random things. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for that. I appreciate you giving up an hour of your time. It's been awesome to have you on. Because you want to come back on again, you're more than welcome to come join us and chat about anything you like inside here. Well, thank you very much, Justin. Cheers for that. If anyone's got any questions after the fact or watching a replay, just drop them inside the comments, and I'll try and pass them on to Justin at some point, try and get them answered if we can. But yeah, once again, thank you very much, mate, and we'll see you all very soon. Cheers, everybody. Bye.
Bye.